As long as you got a plan for it, that's good. I actually need to go through mine. That's something that I want to do on my rest day tomorrow is go through my goals and actually like cross off some that I've accomplished and then some that are still up and coming and reconvene and see if those are things that are still in alignment with what I want. Because as you grow, you really get to decide uh, the new version of yourself. So you might have wrote down something a few years ago, or as you go through these, like I wrote this first 300 down in 2020. So it's been 5 years. So I've got uh, a lot of growth that has happened in that time frame. Um, and so some of them might be in alignment, some might not be. So it'll be fun to go through again and see where we're at, and then see
That's
if
that's kind of like a little time capsule.
Mhm. It's pretty sweet.
As you say,
That's why these are so powerful, is like being able to go back and reference these little exercises here and there seem so trivial, and then you go back and you're like, wow, that was the piece. Those were the little things. That was the intentional work that I was doing to bring my vision into reality. And then when you see it happen, you're like, holy crap, it happened. And we don't always recognize it right then and there. And so these are super powerful little exercises that I've found in retrospect being some of the most aha moments. Uh, Even right now, just like just purely by happenstance. I have a friend that now lives in downtown Dallas, and I'm on top of one of the like tall skyscraper buildings or whatever, the apartment condos. And I remember in 2020 when I was driving Uber, I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait to like I live in one of those, or I have friends that live in one of those. I didn't have any association with people that actually were in places like these. And now to just be like, that's a normal thing. This is a normal occurrence. Like, that's kind of crazy to me. But
I am going. I will. Um, I will. I'm going to do it, and I know that it's going to be is exactly what you. Going to be amazing, like you said, because or like I did the. Remember, like a couple weeks ago, you were talking about um, like you had your manifestation, like how you use like Chat GPT and like you had it like recorded and with music.
mhm.
And like I've seen the difference because I do that like every day when I go to bed, when I wake up. And it's like kind of amazing to see like little changes in yourself.
Yeah,
Like as you're telling yourself you're proud of yourself, like you've done da 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 this, and you're like you hear it in your own voice. Yeah, it's
it's powerful. I'm like so
so.
excited to have mine and just listen to it. I was like, it gets me so excited.
I
Um,
apologize if I'm a little like I just got off a night shift, so my brain is like
it's all good, bro.
it's doing as much right now. I'm like,
All good. Fact that you show up is part of the process. Um, but yeah, Phèmy, yeah, love to hear from you. I know that this week you've had a lot of learnings and a lot of lessons from uh, some of your mentors, and love to hear. I know you had like is it the levels of procrastination? The traps of procrastination was one of the three
Mhm.
that you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, you guys, I'm momming and I'm like driving, so but no, honestly, before we even get into that, I think we should tap into emotional awareness and how, people always speak about emotional intelligence and, the fact that we need that, but, having emotional awareness and understanding where you are in what season and even in what moment, because sometimes, and I know I could bravely admit that in some moment in time, my emotional awareness is not there. I'm not aware in that moment, in that thought of what's actually happening until something, obviously like catches me or I'm like, oh snap, wait, no, I need to respond or I need to, pivot, however it is that, the conversation's happening in my head. But we were talking about I think, and I, oh, sorry, that was accident. Um, I think I also just sent it to you, Grace.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just the emotional, having emotional awareness and I think that really ties into kind of procrastination because with procrastination, just that aspect is prolonging something that you know you need to do and you're not doing it because of maybe the feeling that it's giving you, or maybe, it may be mundane. It may be, something that is not intriguing or interesting or whatever the aspect may be, but sometimes not seeing where you are with your emotions, not being aware of them, I think it kind of heightens the procrastination. It makes you more of, okay, well, I'll do it then, or I'll do it tomorrow, and then you try to justify the levels of importance of doing. And it's like, honestly, at the end of the day, um, you need to do everything that you know you need to do. It doesn't matter which comes first, which comes last. You have to get all of it done. You know what I mean? Regardless of what's happening, and be careful, I have precious cargo. Um, one of the um, one of the first things I know that I had put in my notes is, emotional unawareness. It causes, the lack of, consistency. Not being emotionally aware, because you pick and choose when to stay consistent with certain things. Because in the moment of time, right? Last week we were talking about the feeling is the secret, right? Because the feeling is the secret when you're in the emotion and you're emotionally tied to the goal that you have or the thing that you want to do. You're in the feeling. So therefore, you're going to be consistent with the actions that you have to take, right? So let's say life happens. Let's say something throws you off slightly. Now you're not operating in the feeling.
Mm.
And now there's a sense of consistency that starts. And then you yourself, oh, well, I'll pick it up tomorrow. Oh, well, I'll do it after this. Oh, well, let me get this first and then I'll continue. But regardless, you broke your word with yourself, anyways. Because regardless, whatever happened, you still should have continued. And you know what I mean? Because now you're creating a pattern, right? So, how emotionally aware can you get when it comes to certain seasons that you're in or certain things that you're doing or even the goals that you're going after? I know we were talking about C-type goals. So for your C-type goals, like what can you identify that, in what portion, maybe when it comes to your task, or maybe when it comes to your habits or thing, where are you with your emotional awareness for it? Because you can fall into inconsistency if you're not aware of how you're feeling. And this is where discipline comes in, because you should do the thing long after the feeling has gone,
Mm.
right? But it is important still to stay emotionally involved, to be aware of your emotions, and you can talk about the other aspect of what emotional unawareness causes. I think I'm not sure because I can't see the
I got
notes.
you.
Yeah, but you can go into that or give feedback on anything that said.
I freaking love it. It makes uh, time is your biggest asset or your biggest liability. Are you being intentional with your time, or are you just getting by? I think those are very big points. And one thing that I would venture to guess, guys, is travel really forces you to be intentional with your time. Especially when you have to be in certain locations, certain time frames, certain time zones, and you're trying to be as intentional with the time that you do have. Um, your procrastination just goes out the window. It's not a thing. And we get so much done in that short period of time. What if our entire life looked like that? What if when you got back home and you went back to your normal, that your normal was still productive and speed and you didn't really question? Because I think, especially for me, and I'm sure it's the same for Phèmy, I know that it's kind of like when you go on a trip with whether it's your business colleagues or for work or something, you get in this mode where you don't question, you just do, and you really experience what I consider like a timeline jump. Like you condense time frames so much that you get done, you're like, we did all that in 3 days. And it's like, what if we did all of that in our day to day, week to week, month to month? We did all that. Um, but it's because the presence of procrastination isn't possible because you know you only have a certain period of time, either to meet the person, to have the conversation, to do the thing. You only have a short period of time and you don't care about perfection. You care about getting it done. And procrastination just jumps out the window. Like it's not a thing anymore. And so I think when you have the awareness of time, one of these things you had was urgency versus procrastination. Um, when you get pushed with that urgency of it's a one-time thing, it's a one-off opportunity, one-time shot, you'll take those opportunities because you don't expect there to be another option or an opportunity. So at least for me, and I hope for you guys, that we start to cultivate that feeling of execution and not procrastinating and feeling like everything's urgent while
Mm,
still knowing that we can breathe, we can be like like the word equanimity, like we can keep that um, feeling, but also still
yeah.
execute at a high level.
Mm,
Yeah, the,
no, that's good.
yeah, because
That's good.
procrastination, you have the action of delaying or postponing something that needs to be done. We all know what needs to be done, whether it's whether it's for your designs, Aaron, whether it's for um, work, whether it's for anything. We all know what needs to be done. But how can we get rid of the spirit of procrastination, which I think has a spirit of fear in it? It has a spirit of delay and
Mm, mm,
questioning, and I'm not sure, and all of these things that make us doubt what's actually about to happen. Whereas
mm.
when you are just like, we don't allow that spirit to be in us, um, I think we get to a point where we can execute and not really have this doubt and worry.
Mhm. Yeah. No, I love that you put that in there because it very much so is a spirit and it is tied to fear, because one of the traps is lack of clarity, right? That's a trap to procrastination, lack of clarity, but clarity only happens when you're not taking action, right?
Mm.
Your action, your consistent action and focus drives out fear. So if you're focused on what it is that you're doing, being emotionally attached to the goal, the thing that you have to do, you don't have time for lack of clarity. You don't have time to that, and I love how you compared the traveling and the visit and because that's so true. Because ain't nobody wasting no time because we all put money, we all took flights, we all sacrificed. So we're going to get the best out of every single minute because we already know that we're capturing the experience and expanding our minds to then take it back home, right? And to then add on to the goal, add on to the vision, add on to what we're doing, and another reason to the reason why most people stay in the aspect of procrastination is choosing comfort over growth. It's comfortable to not get uncomfortable. It's
Right?
comfortable to just do the thing that, well, that you know how to do, and it's like, oh, well, if I have to do this or I have to learn this or, if I hop on this call, like these things are going to make you uncomfortable. You know that whoever you have a conversation with, like I intentionally have people that avoid me in conversation because they know I make them uncomfortable. And I
Well,
intentionally make people uncomfortable because if you are not growing, finish it in the chat. If you're not growing,
you're
you know what's
dying.
happening.
You're dying.
You,
Yep.
we know this. We know this. So when it comes to, you know, in doing things and, being, and that's why I wanted to talk about emotional awareness first, because if you're just aware of how you're feeling, you can pivot.
Mhm.
You can pivot. You can take the low thoughts, the low doubts, and you can shift them and turn them into high performance. You can shift them into productivity. You can shift it into, just thinking better, doing better, taking action towards the goal, or just even, let me do something right now to, raise my vibration, to raise my energy, right? And it's really good. But I'm glad that you said that, because it really does, And I want you to, because I'm pretty sure we've all had this, but I know that you can relate to as well, Grace. Like, talk about, the overthinking aspect, and how the perfectionist that comes in when it comes to doing things, which can lead to procrastination. Not that it's not valid, because you want the things that you're doing to be done at a certain quality. You want it to be right, but talk about how that ties into procrastination, overthinking, and wanting to be a perfectionist.
Yeah. I find most of the conversations that I've had recently have been conversations of I want to, but I want to this. I want to, but I don't know. I want to. And it's like, okay, we actually want to. Because if
That's
you really wanted to, you would figure whatever the thing is out.
Yeah.
Um, and even for this call, Phèmy and I had no idea how to do YouTube or a podcast. I don't even think we're still doing it the right way, but we've been doing it for almost almost 2 years.
Yep.
And it's not perfect, but it's getting done and it's making an impact and it's doing something without us having to know all the ins and outs. Like, I'm sure there's a better process for making you guys aware of the call, making you guys not have to get on a Zoom link, going directly through YouTube. I'm sure there's those things. But it's also, I'd rather get it done than be perfect. And we can iterate on the way as we're going. Um, and I've procrastination and I would say perfection stops most people from even trying. Um,
Hmm.
the average person when it comes to, and this is just stats that I know from random facts, is podcast, the average podcast has to be in the top 1% of all podcasts, you have to make 27 episodes. 27. They don't even have to be good. You just got to make 27 episodes and you beat you beat 99% of the people that ever tried podcasting because they quit before they get good. And most podcasts take 1,000 episodes to even become relevant. 1,000. So, like, we're just playing a numbers game. When it comes to anything that you guys want to do, whether it's art, whether it's physical products, whether it's digital products, whether it's a skill set, it's the reps.
Hmm.
And if you can help somebody get out of procrastination and perfectionism and I want it to be perfect. And I talked to a guy this week who has a freaking fleet of cars for Uber. He's qualified for Uber Black. He's got his commercial license. And I was like, bro, are you on social media? He goes, no, I don't know how to do it. I haven't figured it out yet. I don't want to really like mess up my personal self with my brand and I want to differentiate it and I need a logo and I need a website and I was like, oh my goodness, we just need a post. We just need one post to start. Hey, I've done all of this. This is my fleet. I mean, you don't need a logo. You don't need a brand kit. You don't need all of this stuff to start something. But he's letting perfectionism stop him from getting the ball rolling with social media. That's a long-term game. We don't get it right day one. We still don't get it right year four. It's a it's an
Right.
ever-growing progressive thing. And along the way, you learn new things. I learned if this thing isn't plugged into this thing, the mic doesn't work. It still records, but it doesn't get audio at all. And I'm like, okay, I only learned that by doing 3 hours of videos that didn't actually record audio. So like there's things that we learn in the process, and if you're afraid to fail, because that by all stretch of the imagination would be considered a fail. But for me, I'm like, oh, now I know. Make sure that thing's plugged in. Um, and the receivers are working. So like procrastination mostly comes down to perfectionism, and wanting to have it all figured out. And if I've learned anything, it's those who jump first, then ask, what's up? Like for any of my mentors or coaches throughout the years, um, they're like, they'll say, I need you to jump. And my next response is, I jump. And they're like, I need you to jump higher. And I'm like, okay. So they just keep raising the bar after I do the thing. And they never give me the next steps until I've taken the first step. And I think that's such a fun way to go about helping, because I know each one of you guys wants to help people in their journey, is this concept of next steps. You just need to give them the first step that they need to do. Don't overwhelm them.
Mm-hmm.
Give them the step that they need to do, meet them where they're at, tell them to jump. And then as soon as they jump, meet them there. Tell them to jump again, meet them there. Next steps, next steps. Uh, Instead of giving them an entire saga of things to do. Nobody's going to do anything with that because, like you said, that's lack of clarity. And
Yeah.
as leaders, we give clarity to the things that we are doing, and we allow people to step into that as well.
Mm-hmm. Very much. I love. Go sit. You should have went the other way. Sorry. But yeah, no, I agree. And I think that once we decide to not overthink and not it being perfect, do the thing and then like figure it out later. Commit, commit, and then figure it out later. That's one of the biggest things that gave me relief as an entrepreneur, like, starting just figuring things out and having a skill set, starting a business when, someone that makes 7, 8, 9 figures a month told me, commit and figure it out. So if they're at that level, making that much money, and they're telling, what I'm saying, and I'm getting that perspective, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So that means you were there. Like you were there once. And if you didn't start by committing and figuring out, then you wouldn't be able to give me that advice being now at that level. And it was one of the biggest things for me that I was like, all right, cool. So that's why in making decisions, in doing things, and making sure that I'm, still connected to my goals emotionally. And even when I'm not, to have the discipline of, okay, but I need to get it done. And then going back and, to colleagues, mentors, whatever, like, okay, what does this look like? How can I improve? Because it just takes away so much stress, honestly. And sometimes we just need to be reminded of it, and I love what you said. You don't get it right day one, and you don't get it right year 4. We're constantly growing, you guys. We're constantly new beings. We're constantly shedding off the person that we were, the mindset, the paradigm shift that we did have, because we're constantly being expanded and exposed to things that are making us better. I made a post, I don't know, I think yesterday or the day before yesterday, and I put in there that we're going to anytime we go through something, a situation, circumstance, or whatever it is all ordaining and literally qualifying your steps to what you're asking for.
Yeah.
And it's never going to look like how you want it. It's never going to look like how you want it. But because you asked God for this one thing, cool. Now you have to go through this valley, this ditch, this high, this hump. You got to ride this donkey and hop in this car and meet this person. Like, and literally, it could look like any of those things. Like, legit. You know what I mean? And I can always refer this back to how Grace and I met. I went into an Airbnb, you guys, where I didn't know anyone. I didn't know a can of paint but one person who referred me that I trusted. And I was like, these are great people. You don't have anywhere to stay. Here, you can stay with them, pitch in, it'll be fine. Whole house full of strangers. And now majority of all of those people are my business partners, my best friends, and I travel the world with them and we talk all the time, right? And that was just a decision of, you know, God, I'm tired of being where I'm at. I need to meet good people. I need to be in a community that's going to really encourage me, that's going to shift my mind, expand my pockets. Like, because the more you're in a room with successful people, the more successful that you get, right? Because I can learn from Grace's success. I can learn from Eugene's success. I can learn from anyone's success that I'm around if I'm just in the room, if I'm just there to receive, you know, and little things like just not being emotionally aware of where we're at and how we're feeling. And it creates these traps that we're talking about, the lack of clarity, the overthinking, being a perfectionist, you know, not taking action, or, you know, why are you postponing something that you want? You should be trying to prepone. You should be trying to
Speed it
um
up.
yeah, let the gauge go faster if it's something that you want. And I love that you said that, because just the fact that you want it and you have the thought, you have the goal, it came from your mind, your vision, your spirit, you're qualified enough for it because it came from you.
Mm.
So why not take the actions for it?
I love that. And it kind of made me tear up just thinking about that house that we met in, because that was like a pivotal moment for, I know you, but for me as well. I trusted this guy that I had met in Dallas, and he's like, you need a place to stay for this event. I'm like, yes, like I have no other idea what I'm gonna be doing, but um that event was the first place where I met you. I started my videography. I started like, it's just, that wasn't that long ago, but it feels like an eternity. Also, it feels like yesterday. And so, um, knowing how much the people that chose to stick around the information, there was several people in that house that are no longer doing really anything, um, that I've seen. They've just kind of fallen off the face of the earth because they just decided that they didn't want to be plugged into, it was too hard, and that people fall off. Now, can they come back 100%? Can they do something completely different with their life? For sure. But the likelihood that they feel far behind the growth journey that several of us have been on together is very rare, very real. Um, but yeah, I sometimes you just know, you just trust your intuition, and you take the risks, and you don't know the outcome. I didn't know the outcome of that event. I didn't, none of us did. Um, and likewise, I was actually in Germany last week, and most of the individuals that I was around were, I would say, 2 decades older than me, at least. Like, could be my parents. Um, and for some of them, it's their first experience doing online business or going to an event. For one, it was their first convention, and it was just mind blowing. And I'm like, the fact that we can have these experiences and you can start a completely brand new chapter in your life at 60. You're never too old, you're never too young. And same with the emotional intelligence. They also have to learn those things too. So just because you're younger doesn't mean just because they're older, they've learned that lesson already. Um, and so there's so much value to just be at the table with individuals and be able to give away your gifts, to be able to give away your insight, but also to be able to learn from their insight. Because like I said, you can learn from everybody. You can learn what to do, you can learn what not to do. And if you come with the nature of like, I just want to learn, I just want to be around people to learn and observe and uh, see what's up, it's mind blowing what you can gather from those events and those experiences. Um, there's one thing. Oh, you were talking about emotions. I thought this was a very useful one because I don't really get rattled by um outside circumstances, but this week I was on like 35 hours of not sleeping and probably hadn't had some food, and I was starting to get anxious. Like I was like actually feeling some anxiety, some um worry, some doubt. And I sent a message to a friend who understands the circumstances that I was in, and she's been there before. Mind you, it's really important to ask people advice for the people that you know that have been there before. And she goes, "When was the last thing you ate? And have you taken a nap?" And I was like, noted. So I ate some dinner and I didn't take a nap because I knew if I fell asleep, I was just going to be out and miss my flight. But I ate some food and I was like, oh my God, I'm not anxious anymore. So our emotions can play tricks and we cannot trust the emotion in that very given moment. Um, and one of the things that I use a lot is the HALT method. It's HALT. So if we're hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, we need to halt. Like we need to pause, we need to stop and figure out what we actually need in that moment so that we don't make an irrational decision, an emotional decision that we cannot change.
Good.
And so being very aware of our own physical body's needs and then giving yourself the grace. I'm sure I was tired. I'm sure I wasn't like the most excited personality that I normally am, but I also was able to like control myself. And I think you really only get to test that when you go through it. But those are the few things I was like, we have to remember our physical body needs substance and sleep, and those can play effect on our emotions as well,
Mhm.
especially while traveling, being in a different situations, different circumstances. And so being able to be around individuals that maybe they're completely out of their element. And just because they operated that one way there doesn't mean they always do that. So giving them the benefit of the doubt, giving them some grace to be able to be like, it's a new experience, new environment. They might
Mhm.
they might not always be that high strung or not uh given different circumstances. So just knowing that people are dynamic.
100%. I love that though. And also too, just remembering that your thoughts are going, your thoughts and your emotions are tied hand in hand. And whatever you're feeling is the thought you're going to have, and it's what you're going to believe.
Yeah.
And then that's where you're going to structure your actions around. So, just always going back to how are you feeling? And I love what you said because your emotions deceive you, you guys. And this is why everything else comes into play of, having the basics that you need, having the discipline, having the environment, having the people around you that you can go to have a conversation with because outside eyes help you see your heart. Okay? You're
Mm-hmm.
not going to always see how you act in and what you're like. You're not always going to, because of the regular regimen of, just being in that state and being you. And obviously, you don't have that outside perspective, the third person, all the time. Not that you're not able, it goes back. It goes back to what Grace was saying, taking a stop. What do you need right now? You know, maybe you just need some food and fresh air. Maybe you need to go take a walk. Maybe you've been in the same exact environment for the last 7 days and you have not shifted and your body's angry at you and it's telling you to move. Get me outside, give me some sun, shift my diet. I don't want to keep drinking and eating the same exact thing. Like you have to be aware of those things because they do tie into your emotions 100%, but just having that emotional awareness, it eliminates, the lack of clarity, it eliminates doubts, it eliminates hesitation, and then you don't have to procrastinate. You know what you have to do no matter what it is, no matter how you're feeling, but doesn't mean to not acknowledge how you're feeling. Acknowledge how you're feeling, pay attention, you know, like your emotions are your guidance scale. It guides you on what frequency you're on and where you are, because we're trying to run after our goals, be Superman and Superwoman and all of these things, and we're not even aware of how our body's feeling and how we're feeling.
That's
You know?
so good because I actually heard from this week. He was talking about how somebody kept asking the question, like, how do you know? He's like, what do you feel? He's like, how do you know? He's like, what do you feel? And the guy's like, I feel good. And I talked when he was like having this one, it's like talking about like a specific partnership. It's like, how do you feel about that? If your body feels good, that's a good indication that your emotions, you're in alignment with what you want. He's like,
Mhm.
if you have a deal that's supposed to go through the next day and you can't sleep and you wake up in the morning and you just have this pit in your stomach and you're like, I don't even want to get back on the phone with this guy and close the deal. Like, then he's like, that's your emotions telling you that that is not in alignment. And just because it
Yeah.
sounds pretty or it looks good on paper, what are you feeling? And if you
Mhm.
feel good and you get really, he kept saying, he's like, people study professional athletes. Like if you're going to be a professional athlete, you study professional athletes. He's like,
Yeah.
if you want to be good at business, you have to study you. He's like, you can study other people, but you have to study other people for the purpose of studying you.
Yeah.
You learn how they're good at XYZ, and it's a reflection of how you could be good at XYZ. He's like, your actual game is to study you and figure out what makes you tick, what makes you excited, what doesn't. All of these things that are focused on you. He's like, the better you know you, the more you can help other people. It's like,
Mhm.
wow.
That's
So
good.
the game's really to study us and how everything around us makes us feel. And
Mhm.
our awareness of that is so powerful.
100%. And then you'll see what you need to work on.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? You'll see what you like in business. You'll see what you like with relationships. You'll see what you like in whatever the category or the thing is. If you're studying you for real, that's really good. I love that. I love that. But yeah, you guys, I really hope that you guys got value from it and you were able to, really see yourself, see something, or have notes and things that you could look at later and recall and just make note of and like, okay, cool, let me focus on my emotional awareness a little bit more this week, throughout my decisions or whatever the things that you have to do, and this is for everything. This is not just for business, it's not just for a skill set. It's even if you're a parent. Like, I know that I always have to check my emotions before I speak to my kids because the Lord knows, and it gets real sometimes, but I always constantly remind them, like, yes, I'm your mom, but I'm human.
Yeah.
I have emotions. So, and certain actions and certain things are going to trigger me. And that's with everything, in our business. Like, you have to also to correlate who you are in general with people and what it looks like in business. Because yes, it's business, but like relational though, them doing something, it triggers you because you've gone through this with people in your life, and now it's happening in a business setting. Like, these things are so real. So hopefully you guys got some value, and you could take the best, leave the rest, take what you need, and pivot where you need to, and and definitely work on those 300 goals. I'm gonna review mine as well. I heard you talking about them. I have to go find mine and review them as well, and then add to them, or probably just do a brand new one
Yeah.
as well. But I do want to go back and see myself, like what has been done, what I accomplished, what haven't I, or things of that nature. But thank you so much, Grace. Grateful for you. Thanks for who you are. Thanks for doing these calls with me. And I hope
Always.
you guys enjoy your Saturday. And remember to always work on your mind, y'all. Don't ever take a break on you, ever.
Much love, guys. I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your week. Thank you guys for spending your time. It says more about you than it does anything. But Phèmy and I just do this because we want to see you guys win and have an outlet for being able to do that is really, really fun for me. I know it's fun for Phèmy. But as well as it's really cool to start seeing the pieces fall together for everybody that's on this call, whether they come from one or have been around for a year. It is very, very cool. So appreciate each and every single one of you. And we will see you guys back on Separation Saturday next week. Bye, guys.
Be great.